Oh man, this is so powerful. I don't want you to ever forget this. And I brought you through to see that communism, one world order, is coming. It's part of the plan of darkness. And when it comes, I want you to be ready. Good morning and welcome, all our family members from around the globe. Thank you for joining us in our morning's service. We pray that God will enrich you this morning, especially your spirit and your soul will be nourished this morning. We're going to have an interesting journey of learning, and I want to ask you to pay careful attention to the things that I'm going to share with you. And I don't want you to take, I've been preaching to you for the last 2 weeks on a particular topic. And sometimes it washes over the people and they don't really grasp the import of what God wants to share in your spirit. So I'm asking you this morning that when you listen with your spirit, listen with your soul, so that you can truly grasp what God is trying to say to you. Let's look at baptism first also. We're going to have 2 broadcasts next week. One is going to be the sermon proper as usual. And then at 10 o'clock, we're going to schedule another YouTube video that will be our online baptism. Now, for those of you that have submitted your names that you are going to be part of the online baptism, these are the things that you need to have ready. Firstly, a nice big large bucket or dish of water and a container so that you can use that container to pour over your head as we do the online baptism. I will give you a teaching concerning that baptism and why we're doing it that way online. And so you can tune in for that online baptism to understand it or even to participate. Beloved, I don't want to miss this opportunity before I start preaching to you of thanking all our Trinity International patrons and members and family around the world for their contribution to this part of God's kingdom work. Your contributions mean the world to us. It is because of you that God can use our voice to touch the lives of so many people. I'm going to start by introducing you to a person called Milton William Cooper. And William is normally translated to Bill Cooper. He was an American, well, now they'll even call me the same thing, conspiracy theorist, radio broadcaster, and author. So he had his own radio program. He claimed to have served in the United States Navy, the United States Air Force, and Naval Intelligence until he was discharged in 1975. Bill Cooper was on his radio program on the 28th of June 2001. Now, the date is very important. This was about 2.5 months before the United States September 11th attack on the World Trade Center when the 2 buildings came down. Now, in this video, he claims that Osama bin Laden was trained, and I already showed you that this was fact. He was trained by the CIA and was their operative. He was an operative of them against the Soviet Union in an attempt to bring down the regime of the Soviet Union. He was in hiding, and it was said that the FBI, he was regarded as a terrorist now, and all the agencies, the three-letter agencies of the United States, were on the hunt for him. They even gave a reward for him. This was now before the September 11th attack. But they said they couldn't find him. But lo and behold, a CNN reporter who had no budget like the CIA and all these other guys have, he managed to find bin Laden and go with his TV crew camera and video him, have an interview with him, and they played that interview on CNN during that period in June 2001. And in that clip, Osama said that within months, he's going to attack the United States. And I already gave you videos very long time ago now, showing you how CNN, the Cabal network, is able to manufacture footage and pretend they are in a certain place. Even up until today, if you watch CNN, there's a person who is broadcasting from Tel Aviv, and there's the anchor who is questioning him from their studios in Atlanta or wherever. And normally when you're communicating over that distance, there is a time delay. When you speak into the mic, it takes a few seconds before the reporter on the ground far away on a different part of the world can actually hear your words. And then he will respond. But when you watch this program, it is quite obvious that those people are using green screens and pretending the reporters are in different parts of the world, because the reporter can hear them in seconds, not even like a normal person having a conversation. So we know that from all the evidence I've shown you before, the manufactured news, that these people are part and parcel of the Cabal network. So when you watch this video clip of the news or the radio broadcast of Bill Cooper, it leaves a chilling feeling. So just take a listen.
Can you believe what you have been seeing on CNN today, ladies and gentlemen? Can you believe it? Supposedly, a CNN reporter found Osama bin Laden, took a television camera crew with him, went into Osama bin Laden's hideout, interviewed him and his top leadership, his top lieutenants and colonels and generals in their hideout. This is a CNN reporter with a camera crew. And he came out and told everybody, within 3 weeks, Osama bin Laden is going to attack the United States and Israel. Now, don't you think that's kind of strange, folks? You see, because the largest intelligence apparatus in the world, with the biggest budget in the history of the world, has been looking for Osama bin Laden for years and years and years, and can't find him. And whatever is going to happen that they're going to blame on Osama bin Laden, don't you even believe it.
It is so sad. At the end of that video clip, you would have noticed a news strip on the right-hand side. Lo and behold, whatever he was warning us about on the 28th of June came to pass on the 11th of September, the same year. And also, he told the world that the government of the United States are going to blame bin Laden for this attack. And because of his knowledge, because he was in intelligence services, he was eliminated. And on the 6th of November, police shot and killed him at his home. Before he passed away, Cooper also explains that the war in the Middle East started well before his time there, will lead eventually to a nuclear war and the creation of the one world order. Because the people, he says, will be so fed up, so scared, so tired of bloodshed and loss that they will pray for peace. And the only way peace can be administered to a nation is when there is no different nations. All must be one. Wars happen when countries fight against countries. But if all are one with no borders that distinguish one from the other, no different country has its own leaders, it's going to be a one world government. When that happens, there is no war between nations because it's all one. And so people will cry out for that one world order. And Bill tells us this was and is the plan of the forces of darkness. Watch this little video clip.
The Israel-Iran conflict is an inside job by the globalist elite, who are working to ensure the conflict will light the fuse to ignite a holy war that will spiral out of control into World War III and lay the groundwork for the elite to usher in a one-world government of the New World Order. According to an insider, recent events in the Middle East, including the Israel-Hamas war and now the conflicts with Iran, have been planned by the global elites and are now playing out to the letter, with the ultimate goal of shaping the world in their own image.
What role in the Middle East again does Israel play in this?
Israel was created as the instrument to bring about the Battle of Armageddon and the fulfillment of prophecy, a war that will be so terrible, where nuclear weapons will be used, so that the American citizens and the other people in the world will get down on their knees and beg for no more war. And what is the answer to that? They're going to be told the only way we can guarantee no more war is if we destroy the sovereignty of nations and we come together as one humanity in a one world government.
So, who created Israel? And I use that word name Israel very reservedly because I've been sharing with you that these are not the children of Israel, but rather the children of Esau. The next video is going to explain who created Israel.
Backroom deals, betrayal, and a war that's lasted almost 100 years. This is what happened when the richest family in the world decided to create their own country. In 1917, the Rothschilds, the trillion-dollar family that invented modern-day banking, used their money, power, and influence to strike a secret deal with the British government. That deal eventually led to the creation of the country of Israel. But what makes this story more bizarre is the crazy personality of the man who orchestrated this deal, Lord Walter Rothschild. By the early 1900s, the Rothschilds were already the most powerful family in Europe. They were so wealthy that they had even given loans to the entire country of France to stabilize the economy. However, aside from their power, the Rothschilds also had a reputation for being extremely ruthless. They wouldn't hesitate to wield their power as a weapon, to bulldoze through their enemies and crush anyone who opposed them. If the Rothschilds wanted something, they better get it, or they'd be hell to pay. Walter Rothschild made the calls he needed to make, pulled the strings he needed to pull, and in 1917 the British government sent Walter an official letter promising to do everything within their power to provide land for the creation of Israel. That letter redesigned the map of the world, and if you need proof, we have a copy of that letter.
November the 2nd, 1917. Dear Lord Rothschild, I have much pleasure in conveying to you, on behalf of His Majesty's government, the following declaration of sympathy with Jewish Zionist aspirations, which has been submitted to and approved by the Cabinet.
So it's possibly the most famous letter in modern Jewish history, and it begins with 3 words: Dear Lord Rothschild.
That letter, nicknamed the Balfour Declaration, is proof that it was the Rothschild family that created Israel. But there's even more evidence. In this interview, the head of the Rothschild family proudly explains how his ancestors created Israel. The interviewer begins by asking the question that was on everyone's mind.
Why was it that this letter was sent by the Foreign Secretary to your great-uncle Walter?
The reason is obvious. Because it was the Rothschilds' money, power, and influence that made the British government fall in line. Years later, Britain kept their promise to the Rothschilds and provided a large piece of land to start Israel. And in May 1948, the State of Israel was officially created.
So Britain, with the influence of the Rothschild dynasty, gave a piece of land to create their own country to Edomites. But all of this was part of a future plan. We'll dig into it as we go forward. Don't forget that this family, Rothschild, Red Shield, the red one, who was Esau, who is the Edomites. That's what Edom means, the red one. I gave you the details before. They are from the tribe of Edom. Therefore, they are Edomites posing as the children of Jacob or Israel. They want to rightfully get what their father Isaac gave to the younger son, Jacob. Edom wants to get what is rightfully his. So he poses as a child or as children of Jacob to inherit from the world what was rightfully his, dominion. Just take a listen to these next couple of clips.
Cooper also called out the deep state before the term existed, explaining that the 3-letter agencies were created to help the globalist traitors usher in a one-world government of the New World Order.
We didn't have a national security agency or a central intelligence agency before the UN Participation Act was signed. And these organizations were created to bring about the one world government, the New World Order. And it had to be done in a manner that the people would not know that it was being done, and the only way they could do that was hide it behind the veil of national security.
The same 3-letter agencies that Cooper warned us about are still working behind the scenes to destroy the concept of freedom in America, as Edward Snowden warned us about just this week.
The People's Voice have an article. We'll read it. The W and the H and the O whistleblower warns that the treaty, when a disease comes out, will create one world government. A whistleblower from that organization has warned that the global treaty for disease is a ploy by the globalists to abolish national sovereignty and replace it with a one world government. By the way, they say, the Biden regime has confirmed that it is committed to hand over US sovereignty by giving the W and the H and the O the authority to control how the US responds to diseases worldwide, widespread. And on the actual website of these people, they call for urgent agreement on international deal to prepare for and prevent future widespread diseases. According to Meta, every country in the world has signed that agreement. In other words, when there's a disease that breaks out all over the world, every country signed an agreement with this organization of the world regarding health, that they will hand over their sovereignty, their ability to make rules during that period in their own country. They will hand over the reins to this organization. The only two countries that did not sign as yet is Eritrea and the Holy See, in other words, the Vatican. And one wonders why. You can say that we are almost ready for something to happen. So far, everything I've spoken to you about leads to one central theme: one world order, one world government. And that is established according to biblical records as the first and second beast. The first beast being the global elite, the Cabal as we know them, the Edomites. The second beast is the right wing, the religious sect, and the Islamic and religious world and other religious worlds, those that are ardent followers of so-called God's righteousness in their eyes. So basically you get the left and the right, and these are the first and the second beast. Now Revelations, the New International Version in particular, tells us that there's going to be a beast coming out of the sea. And it says in 13, the dragon stood on the shore of the sea. This is Satan now. And from him, and I saw a beast coming out of the sea. And it had 10 horns and 7 heads, with 10 crowns on its horns, and on each head a blasphemous name. Revelation 17:15, the Living Bible translation, quotes it quite nicely. The oceans, lakes, and rivers that the woman is sitting on represents masses of people of every race and nation. So the sea, alongside which the dragon is standing, because it says in Revelations 13, the dragon is standing on the seashore. And he took a beast out. He saw a beast coming out, or he saw a beast coming out of the sea. What does the sea represent? The sea represents, according to Revelation 17, the masses of people of every race and nation. Now, if that beast is going to represent all the peoples of the world, the only organization that we have controlled by the elite cabal at the moment is the United Nations. So, we know that the United Nations is a mascot for shadow figures that control the puppets that sit in that house, that speak on the mic, that have a public face. But that organization, the United Nations, represents the peoples of the world, and hence represents the sea that from which the dragon, from which the beast comes out. So the beast is in effect the United Nations. And there's a description of that beast in the Bible. But if we have to go into details, we'll discover a few things. But first I want to take you to see the 7 heads of the beast that is mentioned in Revelations 13 as we just read. 10 horns and 7 heads. Now, there are many things that can contribute to why John saw crowns and horns and so forth, but the heads are important. The heads that are part and parcel of the United Nations takes precedence for our understanding. Now, in that United Nations, there are literally 7 heads, 7 departments, and we're going to just discover what they are. The main bodies are, number 1, the General Assembly, number 2, the Security Council, number 3, the Economic Council, number 4, the Social Council, number 5, the Trusteeship Council, number 6, the International Court of Justice, number 7, the United Nations Secretariat. These are the 7 heads. Now, all were established under the United Nations Charter when the organization was founded in 1945, after Hitler was removed, destroyed, the World War II ended. Now, in front of the building of the United Nations, there is this statue. And the name of this statue is the Guardian of International Peace and Security, or what they termed the Lion of Peace. So this organization is going to be responsible, or takes on the responsibility of creating peace in the world. And this is what the uniting of nations, the one world order, is going to offer. And who sits as a mascot in front of that building? None other than the beast that is described in the Bible, quite eerily similar to the words we hear from the biblical writers. Revelations 13:2. Now the beast which I saw was like a leopard, which is like a leopard. It's exactly what we're seeing in front. His feet were like the feet of a bear, and that's what we're seeing. And the mouth like the mouth of a lion, and that's what we're seeing. The dragon will give him power, his throne, and great authority. Who? Satan saw this beast coming out of the masses of people, the nations of the world, and bestowed power upon this United Nations beast, so that they can have dominion and authority. Now, it doesn't end there. In the Old Testament, Daniel chapter 7 saw a vision. And he says the first was like a lion and had eagle's wings. Now, this description is important because the lion represents one of the great nations involved in the United Nations, namely Britain. Their national animal is the lion. The national animal or creature of the United States is the eagle. Now, Revelations 13 tells us further, and I saw one of his heads, as if it has been mortally wounded, and his deadly wound was healed. And all the world marveled and followed that beast. So they worshipped the dragon who gave authority to the beast, and they worshipped the beast, saying, "Who is like the beast? Who is able to make war with him?" Now, what this is warning us of is that in the end times, when this beast is established, which it is now, one of its heads is going to be fatally wounded, mortally wounded. So what that means? That means that there's going to be an attack on one of the heads of the United Nations. Let's say in that instance, it's going to be one of the substructures or one of the countries, 7 major ones that are involved. There's going to be attack on that country, and that country is going to be mortally wounded. In other words, there'll be nothing left after that attack, and that in our days speak of something nuclear. But the beast is going to make that part of the head healed. In other words, they're going to restore it. After such a devastation, they're going to take control, in other words, and restore the head, one of the heads of the United Nations that has been fatally wounded. In other words, dead, but they're going to restore it after this serious attack. And when that is done, the people of the world are going to be amazed at the ability of the United Nations to restore something that has been so devastated and destroyed. So, that is probably, and I say probably because all these things are available in the Bible, and it's up to us to start seeing, as Jesus said, the events unfold. So, most probably, if God leaves us here, there's going to be a calamity attack, an attack of calamitous proportions that are going to take place against the beast. If we are still here, we should see it. I just pray that God's children in this are going to be safe. Now, I have further reason to suspect that something is afoot. I'm going to introduce you to a very little known man called Albert Pike. Let's read about him and get to know him a bit better. Albert Pike was a lawyer who played a major role in the development of the early courts of Arkansas and played an active role in the state's politics prior to the Civil War. He also was a central figure in the development of Masonry, Freemasonry, in the state of Arkansas, that is, and later became a national leader of the Freemason organization. By the way, this man wrote the rule book which the Freemasons of today follow. He received an education that provided him with a background in classical and contemporary literature and in Hebrew, Latin, and Greek. Now, Pike died now. He lived quite a long time ago. He was died at the Scottish Rite Temple in Washington, D.C. on the 2nd of April, 1891. This man, by the way, was also involved in the creation. It is said that he was involved in the creation of the Ku Klux Klan. That is the white supremacist group of the United States. Even up till today, he is honored in Arkansas in a small town called Little Rock. The building is a testament of his life. So the Albert Park Hotel, which bears his name, and the Albert Pike Memorial Temple, that's the Freemason Temple, both in Little Rock, and his Little Rock home remains standing. A little more about him. In his newspaper, he was an editor of a newspaper, the Memphis Daily Appeal, for April 16, 1868. the publisher Albert Pike, and it's said that he was a 33rd degree Scottish Rite Sovereign Grand Commander. We would unite every white man in the South who is opposed to the Negro suffrage into one great order of Southern brotherhood, with an organization complete, active, vigorous, in which a few should execute the concentrated will of all, and whose very existence should be concealed from all but its members. So they wanted to set up an organization that will do the bidding of all this white people who regarded themselves as supreme, and they will keep their actions secret. Don't forget, he is a founding member of the Freemason Temple, and he was a national Freemason leader. By the way, Bill Clinton also came from Little Rock, Arkansas. He was the governor of Arkansas, a state infested by the tradition of Albert Pike, who was the grand dragon of the KKK in Arkansas. An article tells us that Clinton sat down and worked out his views on these issues with his Baptist minister, the late Reverend W.O. Vaught, who was a Clinton spiritual guide and virtual foster father. The Reverend W.O. Vaught was a 32nd degree Mason, a sublime prince of the royal secret within the Scottish Rite hierarchy. So this reverend, this pastor of the Baptist church was a Freemason. You know, I keep warning people about the danger of sitting under some ministry somewhere, because these people design their actions to be kept secret. So you really don't know what frequencies are penetrating you, what mindset is being adopted into your mind. Christians blindly go, because it's a church, oh, it's a church, we'll go. Oh, it's a church, oh, it's a pastor. And you don't realize that there are wolves, more wolves than actual pastors of God. Now, here's the thing. This man, Vaught, Reverend Vaught, was the spiritual father of Bill Clinton, who was also a Freemason, by the way. He was a member of the same lodge in which Albert Pike ran. And so I want you to see the organizational structure and the passing on of the baton from one generation to the next of Freemasonry. Now, here's what is important that Albert Pike said. That which we must say to the crowd is, we worship God. But it is the God one adores without superstition. The Masonic religion should be, by all of us initiates of the high degrees, maintained in the purity of the Luciferian doctrine. In other words, they were secret followers of Lucifer, Satan. But he writes very secretly, deceivingly, that in the first sentence we read, the people, the crowd must be told we worship God, but we mustn't say which God. But in secret, we worship Lucifer. He continues, if Lucifer were not God, would Adonai, the God of the Christians, whose deeds prove his cruelty, perfidy, and hatred of man, barbarism and repulsion to science, would Adonai and his priest calumniate him? Yes, he says, Lucifer is God, and unfortunately Adonai is also God. This quote that Pike made is, by the way, available in French and English in the Albert Pike vertical file on the library of the Scottish Rite Southern Jurisdiction at 1733 16th Street, NW, Washington, D.C. So it's there for people to see. Furthermore, about this man, he was born in 1809 and he died in 1891. He became a member of the secessionist movement, and also he was chosen by Mazzini, that's an Italian leader. He was worshipped now as someone great. But Mazzini, he was chosen by Mazzini to head the Illuminati in America, a secret society, operations in America. He was then moved to Charleston, South Carolina in 1852. So this man, Albert Pike, a Freemason, was hired by an Italian general, if you can call him, Mazzini, Giuseppe Mazzini, to be an Illuminati leader in the United States. So he was a Freemasonic leader and he was the Illuminati leader, the substructure of the Freemasons. So this man was the forerunner of everything evolved today. He was a very high-ranking shadow figure. A little about Giuseppe Mazzini. Mazzini's thoughts had a very considerable influence on the Italian and European Republican movements. In the Constitution of Italy about Europeanism, one world order of Europe, today called the European Union, his initial precepts about the unification of the Nordic nations and Europe eventually came to pass, and today is known as the European Union. So this man believed in that and he promoted that, and it eventually came to pass as we see it today. Now, it is said that Albert Pike had a, I don't know if this is true, but he had a ring that gave him access to Lucifer. That we can't prove, but we do know one thing, that Lucifer penetrates the minds and you can have contact with the supernatural spiritual world of darkness, and a leader of the Illuminati or Freemason will definitely have that privilege. So one way or the other, he got instruction, and Satan gave him a vision. And he wrote that vision in a letter to Giuseppe Mazzini in Italy. Now remember, the Italians are descended from the Edomites because their grandson, Esau's grandson, went there. And so, what Satan showed him of the future, what needs to be done, he wrote that in a letter to Giuseppe Mazzini. And we're going to go through that letter. But News 24's preamble to this letter says, well, Albert Pike seems to have been heavy in the occult, and he wrote a book called Morals and Dogma. But the main point here is that there is a letter in which is believed to he wrote to Mazzini dated 15th of August 1871. In Freemasonry, there is what is said, ordo ab chaos, meaning order out of chaos. They cause chaos upon the earth to create order. So all the chaos that you see at the moment, whether it's in the Middle East, whether it's the floods and droughts and whatever is going on, shortage of food and hunger and weather manipulation and wars and all this chaos, it has to lead to, out of all that must come, out of all that chaos must come order. Whose order? Satan's order. This is what Freemasonry motto is. So let's go into that letter that he wrote to Giuseppe Mazzini, telling him the vision that Satan gave him about the future of the world. This is going to be very interesting. Let's listen. This war he was speaking about the First World War. Must remember, this letter is written 50 years or so before the First World War. But this is the vision that Satan gave to Albert Pike. He gave him a vision of the First World War. And this is what he said. This war was to be battled out so as to enable the Illuminati to overthrow the powers of the Tsars in Russia and turn Russia into a strong fortress of atheistic communism. The differences stirred by the agents of Illuminati between Germany and British empires were to be used to foment this First World War. Then when the war has ended, communism was to be built up and used to destroy other governments and to weaken religions. And if so, this happened, it was World War. Now, communism, if it applies to the entire world, is one world order, where the state of the world will control the rules and regulations of every country. That's what communism is, if you apply it to the whole world. When communism rules the world, or rules a nation, nobody owns anything. Everything is owned by the state. If that applies to the whole world, then you will own nothing. And according to the promise, you will be happy. We pulled it out already. Now, if you don't know much, all you have to know is that this vision that Satan gave to Albert Pike about the beginning of the First World War, it is almost exactly to the T what happened in the First World War. And so that was the prediction. Then in 1927, after somehow Hitler came to know about these plans and how the First World War came into being, he wrote the Mein Kampf, famous letter in 2 parts, because he came to the realization that the Edomites were responsible for creating this. Edomites like Albert Pike and Giuseppe Mazzini. He knew the calamity, that the chaos was meant to bring the order. He knew that there was a hidden hand involved in these wars. So in that Mein Kampf, this is what he wrote. The Jews are a state within a state. They are a nation within a nation, a shadow government. Underline that. This is in his writing in 1927. A secret power. It's written in volume 1, chapter 11 of Mein Kampf. He goes on. I'm giving you small quotes from that Mein Kampf. Wherever they mention that name, I'm going to say Edomites. The Edomite is a master of lying, a master of deception, a master of disguise. He is a shadow creature, a phantom, a ghost. And I quote where it's from. The Edomites are a racial and cultural threat to Germany, a shadow that looms over our nation, a danger that must be eliminated. That's where Ashkenazi Jew comes from, because they came out of Germany. But when they were there, they were orchestrating many things. The birth and flourishing of the Rothschild dynasty was in Germany. I taught you that before. He goes on to the next statement. The Edomites are a secret society, a hidden hand. I've been telling you this hidden hand thing, secret society. A shadow government that controls the levers of power from behind the scenes. I wonder whether you can understand why this man was such a threat. But the history books that everybody in the world read are written by Edomites about him. So everything that you're going to get is from that perspective. Just be warned. In that document, he speaks about, if you do a search, it says that he mentions the Aryan race, the white supremacist race. That's what he mentions. It doesn't appear there. What he mentions is that word is a different type of word. Arish, it's a German word. It means noble. So when he was saying the Edomites are corrupting the noble people, they made it mean that, because I already told you that he was giving help to India, to an Indian boss from there. So he was not what they want you to believe he was. When he used that term, Arish, it meant noble, not the KKK. So what he was saying was that the Edomites were polluting the noble people of the world. Especially he was concerned about Europe. They were polluting Germany, they were polluting Austria, they were polluting Britain and everywhere, and he was, what he did, nobody can condone. You cannot approve if all that's true though. Because we were not living in that time. We were not there. So we take by faith what they tell us, that he murdered so many of the Edomites. But his mindset, you can better understand now that you know what you know. Listen, normally, I find this common with people. What they're doing, they generally accuse you of. So if a man accuses his wife of being unfaithful, the chances are that he is unfaithful. I'm not saying in all circumstances. Let's say somebody calls you a liar. You inside of you know that that person is a liar, but they take what's on them and they apply it to you. This is how satanic people work. And so what they are, they want to impose that on you. So when the Edomites tell that they love you, that they want to recruit you as an Illuminati member and you are of a different color, be careful, they're going to use you and they're going to spew you out, they're going to tramp on you and you'll be left without eternal hope. So I know these guys watch me. So I want you to be aware. You that are watching, some of these guys that members of the Illuminati, you watching, I know. You need to remember, personally, you sitting there's nobody watching what you're watching. I want you to know this. They hate you. They're going to use you, these Edomites. They're going to destroy you. They're going to take your soul and trample on it. If you have any sense right now, you ask God for forgiveness. Fall down on your knees. And you contact me later. My numbers are on that screen. And you tell me you want to give your life to Jesus. We will pray for you. It doesn't matter if you sold your soul. Jesus is the ransom. So he can buy it back anytime you will. You want it back. Judgment has not taken place yet. You ask him and God will save you. In this letter that Albert Pike wrote to Giuseppe Mazzini, he predicted the Second World War. Let's watch what he said. The Second World War must be fomented by taking advantage of the differences between these fascists and the political Zionists. In other words, the Edomites and those that want to be superior. This war must be brought about so that Nazism is destroyed and that the political Zionism be strong enough to institute a sovereign state of Palestine, Israel in Palestine. You saw where the idea came from. Why did Britain decide to put that country there. Why did the Rothschild want that particular land? Because it was told to them by Satan through Albert Pike. During the Second World War, international communism must be strong enough in order to balance Christendom. You see, Christ is always a threat to the powers of darkness. And Satan told this man to write that, which would be then restrained and held in check until the time when we would need it for the final social cataclysm. So, communism is there, but it's hidden at the moment. But it's going to come when they're going to need it. In other words, the one world order. That's what it means, communism. That's what communism is. So he's actually telling us, Satan, that the one world order is coming. In that letter, Satan tells Pike, this is what you write. The Third World War, it is said to be the last, must be fomented by taking advantage of the differences caused by the agents of the Illuminati between the political Zionists and the leaders of the Islamic world, the Arab world. The war must be conducted in such a way that Islam, the Muslim Arabic world, and the political Zionism, the state of Israel, mutually destroy each other. Wow. That is the plan of the final war. That will bring in communism or the one world order. Own nothing, state owns everything. Everything you have, everything you enjoy, everything you see and own will be removed from you. Here comes the message for today. Let me start by saying this and reminding you. We spoke about how people are made on the earth. You have people who God put here. They have the spirit or the character they have. They have their body and they have a soul. That is the part of God that He puts inside of a man. So man from God is made out of body, spirit and soul. Then you get unplanned births that God never anticipated, never wanted. That was done by the will of man. I read you scripture to confirm that. That person is called a golem. That person is basically only spirit and a body. That person cannot envision eternity. That person is unable to have faith in the unseen. Because faith in the unseen can only be given by a soul, a person with a soul. And the soul provides you vision for eternity. The soul provides you. So the people of the golems only live in this world. Only things that are real to them is what they can see. Things they can't see are not real to them. Many of them are scientists. Many of them are very intelligent academics. If they can't see it, they cannot believe it. And so they don't accept it. And it can be frustrating when you try to talk about these intelligent people about God. But the reason they can't see it is because they have no souls. So only a person with a soul has an instinct inside of them. There is a superior being that made us. These people with golems, they thank the universe because they can see the universe. Who made that universe? What do you think? It just appeared. So the people with the soul, they are the only ones that live in the unseen world, that can anticipate, can see. But in the life of a golem, everything they have, their whole world, centers around whatever they have, whatever they own, that gives them pleasure. They don't live beyond this world. They live in this world, they partake in this world, everything they own is this world. That's to them. Now, taking from the last two sermons, The only thing that makes them feel secure is money. So money gives them security because it's what they can see. It's what they own. It's what's in their wallet and what's in the bank. When they don't have it, they lose a sense of security. They can get depressed, they can get desperate, they can steal, kill, rob just to get that security because they have no conscience. Because the conscience is only given by God to be had with the soul. If you have no soul, you have no conscience. That's why the people with no conscience can kill, rob, steal. They can hurt even family members and think nothing about it, simply because they want to steal from them so that they can have some sort of security. Because their whole world, remember, revolves around this world and the things they have. When they have these things, it gives them a sense of identity. Have you not seen some young men? Because they have this loud ability to buy the music in the car, they'll play it loud. They don't realize that the ear drums are not meant for pounding it with loud sound because you get deaf when you get older. They use their money to give themselves an identity. Oh, I am so and so. I drive so and so car. And they care very little about how that impacts on other people around them. They'll play their loud music. They have no conscience that it affects other people. Children are sleeping. People are studying. Old people can't stand that. It's like that conscience is missing. And you wonder, how can people be like that? Because their world revolves around everything you can see. So these things that they're playing, these things that they're listening to is their world. And it gives them influence and power. We went through that last week. Now, I wanted you to see how the Rothschild family used that money to give themselves security, to give themselves an identity, and to give them influence and power. What gave that Rothschild man all that family? No conscience. Because everything they are is in this world. That's why they could kill, maim, destroy, start wars, start famines. That's why their descendants can do all of this and think nothing. That's why they can murder children, kidnap, sexual abuse. All these people can do because their whole life and satisfaction in life has to do with what they see in this world. They don't think beyond that, about hell, about suffering, about eternal punishment, about judgment. They don't think that. They can't think that far. And so they see money as their whole world, and it revolves around them as much as they revolve around it. Now, I want you to listen very carefully now. Put your listening ears on. These people are people that can stand on a pulpit and preach to a congregation. The ones with no souls. They have no conscience about draining their congregation members of all their money so that they can live a secure lifestyle. They have no conscience about it. These people sit in the pew in the church. The reason why they come and sit there, they make it a duty to come and sit there not because they love God, not because they fear God. They fear losing what they have. So they don't want to offend God because God will remove what they have. It's got nothing to do with the love for God. When they give to God, many of them, they give because they fear that God is going to take away their money, which takes away their security. I hope you can understand this. These people not only sit in the church, there are many that go to different places of worship. They do different prayers. Why do they do this? Not because they love their God, but because they're frightened their God is going to take away their business, is going to take away their jobs. So they go and pacify this God. Christians behave the same way. You know, I had the unfortunate discussion with one of our members who works for an unbelieving boss. And the wife sent me an audio of how the boss shouted at this young man. This young man that belongs to our church drives a vehicle, a bakkie of the company. And inside that bakkie, there were things that, prayer things. And he took it out and he left it in the office while he uses that vehicle. And when the owner found out that he removed it, he swore this boy, this young man, filthy languages. I heard it. Languages that you wouldn't use on a dog or the lowest creature. It was so filthy that I had to switch it off after a few seconds. Now, a person is fighting for his God things to be there and behaving like it. So what's the reason? There is no conscience that I'm fighting. There is no respect for the, in other words, no respect, no fear for that thing which, why is it in the car? It wants to, I need to protect my van. I need to protect my business. So I'm doing that. And this, I want you to stop right now. That you can go on your knees right now where you are and say, Lord, I think I am like this. I've been fearing, I'm giving you not out of, because I love you. I give you because I'm frightened something might happen. I want to change this mindset. I'm not giving because of, listen, you know there was a story in the Bible. Jesus was, you remember when he recruited Peter, James and John, they were in their father's, Peter and Andrew rather, they were in their father's boat, or their boat rather. And they were fishing. You remember they couldn't catch fish all night. And so, using our words last week, when they couldn't catch fish, Jesus appeared to them and he said, guys, what do you have in your hand? Oh, we got an empty net here, Lord. We got a boat. This is our security. This is how we live. This is how we provide for the mouths of our children and our wife. This boat and these nets give us security. And Jesus said, throw the net in. And so they threw the net in. And you remember the story, they took out a haul of fish, almost broke the net. When all night they fished, there was no fish. What does this tell you? This tells you that your security is not in the net, because the net can let you down. It's not in your business, because the business can fail. It's not in your job, because you can lose your job. It's not in a person who you put faith in, because that person can let you down. Your security, Jesus was trying to tell them, is me. I am your provider. I am your security. If I am, he says, he told those guys, leave your things that makes you secure and come follow me. What they did, they left everything and they followed him. And from that day on, they were provided for. We know Peter had a mother-in-law, so he had a wife and he had children, but there was no stories that they went without. Jesus provided for them what they needed on the road. There was no shortage. Jesus is the security. He gave these guys not only just security, he gave them an identity. He made them apostles that 2,000 years later we talk about them. He gave them influence so much that so many souls came to Jesus because of them. He gave them security, he gave them everything they needed. So in your life, I don't want you to have faith in the things you can see in your business, in your job, in your whatever. I want you to know, because only a person that is not a golem will understand this. If you have a soul, I want you to now know that when you have a soul, this Jesus who we speak about is going to be your provider. It's not your job. So when you live outside of this world, you understand that nothing is owned by you. You put no value. Of course, you have to look after the things, take care, it's keeping you. But there's no value in those things as much as you value God. Because when you don't value those things like how the golems do, you cannot value something like how they do. It will stop you from getting depressed when you lose that which provides you security. You will not fall into the trap of lowering your frequency when something you put your faith and trust in is gone. Why? Because your real source is Jesus. He is your source. So, what do you have in your hand? I have Jesus in my hand. And when I have Jesus, I have everything. My faith is not going to come through the doctor that I can see, like the golem. My healing is going to come from Jesus, because He is my source. And with that kind of faith, I want you to move forward. But you can't hoard your things because they are important to you and expect Jesus to still heal you, because your faith base is all wrong. The fact that you hoard, the fact that you treasure the things and things that provides you security, it tells you and God that God is not your source. God is not your security. And now you still want God to heal you. So I want you to understand that concept. Listen, play this again, this last 5 minutes, because it speaks volumes when you're looking for God to do, when you want Him to take you out of certain circumstances. When you want God to come through as your source, as your security. It's not going to happen, because in other areas of your life, you value things. Now, why am I saying this? Because the ones that can hear me and listen and follow what I'm saying and understand and apply it, those are the ones, if they left behind here for the tribulation period, especially the first 3.5, if we are here, most probably we will be for the first 3.5, in my opinion. When communism comes in, when the one world order starts to come in, when they remove things from your possession and say the state owns everything, all what you worked for, every effort, you know that it wasn't yours in the first place. It was borrowed. Because people with souls, they live with borrowed things. It's in other words, temporary things. Golems, it's not temporary. It's what gives them. No, that's my thing. You take it away from a golem, he's going to get very depressed. When he doesn't have security, he's going to bow his knees and say, oh, my security is going to come from the beast, from this United Nations, from the one world government. I rather submit. I go take my mark so I can have food. I go take the mark because I can have these privileges. Because this is my whole life. My world is revolving around these things. But a person with a soul, when that one world order is established, you'll know when they take it away. It never was yours in the first place. You will have no attachment to these things. And so you will escape the judgment. Rise with Christ and God will recognize you. Your name will be written. Oh man, this is so powerful. I don't want you to ever forget this. And I brought you through to see that communism, one world order, is coming. It's part of the plan of darkness. And when it comes, I want you to be ready. So I'm preparing your soul to not hold on to things to grant you and make you feel secure. Jesus will make you feel secure. Commit to Him always. Let us pray. In the name of Jesus, Father, we thank you for the love that you give to your children. We thank you for the recipe, the ingredients you give to us for salvation. And every week as I impart those ingredients, that your children will start to mix it together and give them the full cake, the full baked version of what they need to apply so that salvation is guaranteed. I ask for mercies upon all your children now, in Jesus' name. And all God's children said, Amen. God bless you, beloved. Have a beautiful week. I'll see you again next week. God bless.